right. We about ready here? Okay, let's go ahead and call to order. Let's establish the quorum. We have Mr. Carlin Fryer, Mr. Dallas Pites, Mrs. Maritza Gonzalez Cooper, Dr. Kristen Kraft, myself, Garrett Wilson, Mrs. Christy Schmidt, Mrs. Courtney Darter Bruce, and Mr. Rich Sinna with us. So we have everyone accounted for, and we have a quorum. At this time, we will go into closed session to discuss, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, deliberation regarding matters related to employment appointments, resignations, terminations, retirements, and reassignments. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.0821, deliberation of personally identifiable information on a public school student. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, discussion of purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. This time, the time is 5:01, and we will go into closed session. Good? All right. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the September 17th regularly scheduled board meeting of the Boerne ISD Board of Trustees. So at this time, we will reconvene an open session here and reestablish the quorum. We have Mr. Carlin Fryer, we have Mr. Dallas Pipes, Maritza Gonzalez Cooper, Dr. Kristen Kraft, myself, Garrett Wilson, Christy Schmidt, Courtney Darter Bruce, and Rich Sinna. And at this time, we will go to the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Ms. Reyna, I'll turn it over to you.
At this time, please stand, and gentlemen, please remove your hats for the presentation of colors by the award-winning Boerne champion JROTC Color Guard. Please join our students from Cibolo Creek Elementary School for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Please remain standing for a moment of silence and prayer. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. President and trustees, our students from Cibolo Creek have some great questions for you this evening.
Did you become interested in running for the school board?
I think Ms. Bruce should answer that question.
Thank you for your patience. Maybe Mr. Rich has some influence here. I've always really looked up to the school board just in how they represent each of you and our district, and just seeing his influence in the community. We became friends, and he would talk to me a lot at basketball games, and we'd really just kind of talk about my interests and how involved I was in the school district, in the community. And he's like, you know what, you ought to think about running sometime. So that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And then every year I felt like we'd meet up at maybe the same basketball game, and he'd say, so have you thought about it anymore? And so I met with different people and just kind of talked about it and made sure my family was on board. And then I thought, man, I'm feeling a little busy. And I thought, you know what? It may not be the perfect time, but it's the right time. And so that's when I started thinking about running, that it was the right time to run, because I really do care about each of you, all the 11,100 students in our school district and our community. I love Bernie. So I grew up here like you guys, grew up here in our school district, and thought maybe someday I'd like to be involved at this level. So it's a lot of fun. Thank you, Rich.
Well, many others influenced you as well.
That's true.
She's a quick study.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Great question.
What is something new that the district is doing this year?
I feel we're doing so many fun new things this year, and I'll just give you one quick example, and maybe someone else has another one. But one thing that I'm super excited about that you might not know about is we have a real estate pathway this year. So if you're interested in becoming a realtor, you can start the pathway as a freshman, and it's housed at Bernie High School. Coach Carter, who is such a great teacher and coach, he got his real estate license so that he could teach that class, and the students will get to graduate with their real estate license.
You know, and another thing that's new this year is our Pathway Technology Early College High School. We just opened up a new wing at Bernie High School, but kids from Champion can go there, kids from Bernie High School can go there, and it's for kids that are interested in learning more about, you know, medical, health science, medical careers, and they're going to get to graduate from high school not only with a high school diploma, but an associate's degree, which will save them and their parents thousands of dollars of college costs. So it's very exciting, and it's an example. And at Champion, we've got the cybersecurity program where kids from Bernie High School can go there as well as Champion. So no matter what high school you go to, you can take advantage of these programs that are available to you, and you can get an associate's degree and just be so much more prepared for a future. So that's something new that you kids will benefit from.
Why does elementary school start so early in the day, and why does high school and middle school start later?
I'll tackle this one. So there's a lot of reasons for that, but primarily the reason is it's transportation issues. And when we run a lot of school buses, you don't want really young kids, young students and kindergartners on a school bus with seniors, right? In high school, that's a big grade difference and age difference to do that. And so we do different start times so that we can accommodate the transportation and getting the younger students in the elementary to their schools, and then those bus drivers take off again and go pick up middle school and high school students.
Thank you.
Do you have to have a college degree, and what level of education is needed for being on the school board or being the superintendent?
There is no set level of education. They'll let anybody do this. Yes, we got a future trustee right here. Excellent. We'll get your contact information after this.
But you still need to get your degree, though, okay?
Yeah, you need to go to college. Yeah. No, there's no set education requirement. So yeah, it's up to the voters of Bernie ISD. So really anybody can run for the school district as long as you live inside the boundaries of BISD. You can run for their school board, and if the voters elect you, then you're in. And then as far as I don't think there's any required. Is a PhD required for? I don't know.
So superintendents have all kind of different paths. So these are my bosses. I have 7 bosses, and there are some educational requirements for a superintendent. College degree, so a bachelor's degree, and then most folks serve at a campus administration level, so that's a master's degree. And then it's very common for superintendents to have a doctorate degree. So it's lots of school after high school.
Good question. Very good.
I have a question for each of you. What are your names and what grades are you in? Awesome, thank you. Nico, I have a quick question for you. So do you wish that your school started later for you, or do you like starting early? Like how late? Give me an idea. Good answer. Is that like 8
Garrett,
o'clock or 10 o'clock or 12? Okay, just curious. Thank you.
when Nico said a good time and somebody said a political answer, you talked, Garrett, about anybody can run, in about 10, 8, 9 years, Nico, you might want to consider it.
And Nico, like if you started school at 10 o'clock, do you know what time you'd get out? Like 6 o'clock, right? So that might interfere with extracurriculars. So that's also something that we think about too, is we don't want to interfere with your soccer practice or baseball practice, so extracurriculars. And, oh yes, and homework. You guys are great students. Thank y'all for your questions.
Wonderful job.
At this time, if we can have Mr. President, Dr. Kraft, and the trustees please make your way down to the podium area. Our first commendation recognizes the 2024-2025 Bernie ISD Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. This council is made up of student leaders from Champion and Bernie High School. The students will be working directly with Dr. Kraft and district administration on important topics and events, as well as providing student feedback on district initiatives. They will play an integral part in Bernie ISD's annual Bernie ISD Toy Drive. The council will meet throughout the school year at Bernie and Champion High School. The council held its first 2 official meetings of the school year and discussed important topics that will impact themselves and their classmates. We're excited to work with these students and hear their feedback. Congratulations to the 2024-2025 Bernie ISD Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. Let's give all of them a round of applause. If you're a parent of our students, if you could please raise your hand or stand up to be recognized. Let's give them a round of applause for all of their support. Our next commendation honors the 2024 Bernie ISD Teacher of the Year, Champion High School's Robert Kolar. Mr. Kolar was named the Bernie ISD KENS 5 Excel Award winner. KENS 5 presented Mr. Kolar with the award. He was also presented with $2,000 from Credit Human. And during his tenure at Champion, Mr. Kolar has taught English 1, English 1 Honors, English 2 Honors, Independent Study Mentorship, Academic Decathlon, Student Leadership, and AP Research. As the STU co-sponsor, Kolar oversees the majority of homecoming activities, including the Chargers Homecoming Parade next week. In March, Mr. Kolar received a $10,000 check from Vic Vaughn Toyota of Bernie, as well as a $1,500 stipend from Bernie ISD as the Bernie ISD District Teacher of the Year. Congratulations, this is a well-deserved honor. If we can please give him a round of applause. And this concludes our accommodations for this evening. Twinkie Bear. Oh my God. Right. Thank you. High five. High five.
Once we get up there, you just want to go straight into that next.
Yeah, the video. Yes. Awesome.
Okay, Ms. Reyna, back to you for the core values in action, all pro dads.
We have our two leaders coming to the podium, and we'll have the PowerPoint ready to go. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You bet. Thank y'all. You can be my British Vanna. I got you, Wes. So we were asked to come and share with y'all about a program called All Pro Dads. And we currently have this program at Faber Elementary School and Van Rob, as well as a couple of others. And so I know that a couple of our board members are not only board members, but parents, and they participate in All Pro Dads. So what All Pro Dads is a provides an opportunity for dads to spend quality time with their kids. And the program is pretty expansive, but when you look at it at a school setting, it affords the opportunity for dads to come on campus one day a month. And a little background about the program, it was originally founded in partnership of Tony Dungy, who's former NFL head football coach. And it was just really important to him to have male role models in a school setting. And so I know that Michael could talk about it. One thing that I share with my parents often is, other than our school SRO, that I am the lone male role model staff member on campus at Faber Elementary. So it's just very meaningful to have positive male role models. If you look at our volunteers on a daily basis, our PTO, those are generally our females and moms that do an incredible job. So what are ways that we can get more male interaction on campus?
So at the beginning of every year, we have a kickoff event. I know for Van Rob, we started with a cookout because something about food attracts dads. And typically that's our highest attended meeting of the year. We had about 100 people. We set up yard games. There was cornhole going. It's a time for dads to socialize, not only with their kids, but other dads, their parenting advice, and just really connect on a school level. It's pretty low key, and it just allows them to come in and kind of get their feet wet before we start the actual curriculum kind of lessons when we're going into the monthly meeting. So I know y'all had some.
Yeah, ours was very similar, and the whole point of that kickoff is just come on campus, just come spend time with your kid, learn a little bit about what All Pro Dads will look like as the school year goes on. But you can see by the pictures, it was inflatables, it was basketball, lots of food. Again, if you feed them, they will come. So just very well attended at both campuses this year. So the monthly meetings, and y'all do y'all's early in the morning as well. So Faber Elementary, ours is the second Friday of every month at 6:45 a.m. So not only impressive to have the dads up there, but they're there, I would say bright and early, but it's still dark. And the neat part about the meetings is that it is a set curriculum that is followed. We have incredible PTO families, including dads, who help integrate this curriculum and lead it. And to me, the most powerful part of each meeting is the very first thing is, I'm proud of you because, and every single dad stands up with a microphone in front of the entire crowd and kind of validates their own kid and just tells them, I'm proud of my child because of whatever. And the kids might look embarrassed, but on the inside and outside, they're just beaming that their dad has recognized them. So it builds character. There's a different topic each month. This past month, it was sensitivity. So there's intentional questions that are given at each meeting where the dad can turn to the kid, ask a question, the kid can turn to the dad. There's a culminating activity, some sort of interactive activity that happens, and then a home reading challenge. And so you can see by the pictures, that's the Fabre Library, packed house. Van Rob, looks like y'all have moved outdoors due to the size of the crowd. And so each month is a different topic that we follow.
So obviously the impacts on campus has been huge. The program has grown consistently. I know we started 3 years ago after visiting Barbara's meeting, and we've gone from 30 people to somewhere between 70 and 100 each meeting, children included. Obviously increased involvement in other programs as well. Following COVID, we had a lot of trouble trying to get parents to come back in and volunteer, dads especially. We tried to do a morning sign up for them to open car doors, didn't really kick off. Then we started this, and this was the gateway really, and we've been able to launch other programs since then, to the point now where we have dads coming in at least once every grading period, and they'll cover all the recess duty for the teachers. So that gives teachers a chance to meet collaboratively and plan, and dads are visible then on campus. We've now started Dads on Duty again, and this again was the platform for it. And we're seeing a lot more interaction with dads on campus. Fantastic. We've also strengthened partnerships with different community and business partners. We're pretty shameless in asking for donations for breakfast for the meetings. So a lot of the local businesses and business owners have donated and sponsored breakfast, which again attracts more dads.
Yeah, and I can echo, after COVID, Watchdogs, or we call it Falcon Fathers, but it's the same program. We allow for 2 fathers on campus every Friday, and we would have several Fridays in a row of nobody or one. And since All Pro Dads, for instance, this year we've had 2 tell dads, hey, you can only sign up once so that everybody has an opportunity, but there's a wait list as well. Someone sitting up here, we might have had to remove him for being signed up. I won't say names, but it's not Mr. Wilson. And so you can see, but it's just been incredible. And it's also been wonderful for, like Michael was saying, with just things on campus, like if we need Fall Fest volunteers, if we need a dad to drive the tractor, it's those shameless plugs at All Pro Dads, and it gets done.
The upcoming meeting last Friday of every month, 7 to 8.
Questions that y'all have for us?
Well, I think this is amazing. So how many campuses is it on, to your knowledge?
No, Currington did. I don't know if they still do. 4 of the 8. Yeah.
Okay, half of them. That's wonderful. And as far as cost, is it the PTO that's...
Yeah, and the only cost is a $50 annual fee, which is it 100 now? See, inflation. But it gives you full access to the curriculum. So the nice part for the people who are hosting, they just really have to facilitate it. They're not having, and it comes with the conversations, with the reading challenge. Oftentimes there's some sort of video to watch and for the kids to share out, but
So
it's all included.
this is a national program?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I had a quick question too. If a kiddo does not have a dad, do y'all allow like a grandpa or a mentor?
Anyone, male, female. I mean, we have moms that come. It's just called All Pro Dads, but we advertise it as any positive role model.
That's
So
excellent.
We have both.
So if one of the campuses wanted to add this to their campus, maybe they have all female leaders, could a dad volunteer to start, to start it up? Or how would you start up like a program at an elementary that doesn't?
Yeah, and that's kind of how it's happened. Originally, when at Fabra, I went over to Currington when I first heard about it. I actually had a dad who they had done it in their previous district. And so we went over to Currington together and just saw how they did it. And then it's just kind of been natural. I know that Michael and Van Rob, some of their dads have come over, and so they just kind of see it and then mold it to how it works for their campus.
Awesome. Thank you. Love it.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say thanks to y'all and all our principals that are doing stuff like this, especially in stuff like this. I mean, when we first got involved at Fabra at Bernie, because my kids, have been going to Fabra, and before I became a trustee or even had thoughts about that, we were just so impressed with this program, especially, and just all the different activities that happen on really all of our campuses. And so a huge thank you to you guys for, you don't have to do this stuff, I mean, this goes outside the scope, and you're already too busy as it is, and you work long hours as it is. All of our staff do, right? And so for y'all to take on extra duties like this is just awesome, and it makes a huge impact. And I don't think, I don't want you guys to think that we don't know that, because it's a big impact on our kids and our dads too. I mean, I think that first all pro dads we had right after everything opened back up after COVID, you couldn't even fit everybody in the library. There was like maybe 140 dads there or something crazy, plus 2 or 3 kids per dad, and yeah, there was a line out the door. So huge thanks. You guys are doing awesome. So.
I wanted to say, I am really impressed. I mean, I'll echo what Hugh said, what y'all do, but really the community that shows up to support the kids. Because the first time I'm like, okay, I'm showing up to all pro dads at pre-K. Is there going to be 20, 30 dads? And no, it's a stand-up only room. I mean, it's packed. And that microphone, you see dads that are just hungry to get that microphone and praise on their kids. Going to Falcon Fathers, though, if a parent, and hopefully if anybody's watching this, you want to go participate, realize you will need a nap after that. And you can digest what it entails a little bit, not the after work, but what a teacher entails in a day. Sitting in a kindergarten or pre-K class for a day, doing PE and lunch duty and all that other stuff, it's a full-time job, and I really do appreciate, and you develop another level of appreciation for teachers after experiencing something like that. So thank y'all so much.
Sure.
We do appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. Okay, next up, we've got the BEF Wow moment.
So this past week, we visited with our communications team, Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary School. We visited with Miss Bakar and her amazing students. If you can please roll the video.
Hi, I'm Layton. Welcome to Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary School. Today's wow moment, the students are learning how to use OzoBox.
So this grant is amazing. It's called the OzoBots, and these kids are actually learning to code with color. And these kids are actually coding, and they were late for school, and they had to code from going from their home to school, and they had to see how to get there the quickest. But there's little things along the way on the path that they were getting tricked, like candy, video games, all of the things that we know kids get distracted with. We're able to incorporate reading, we're incorporating math, we're incorporating science, and this grant is amazing because the kids are actually doing all the coding with colors and learning about lines and how the lines work and how it flows. It's phenomenal.
Thank you for supporting every student, every teacher, and every school in Bernie ISD.
Everything good on that one? All right. Next up on the agenda, we have visitor comments and testimonials. We did not have anybody sign up to speak tonight, so we'll keep on going through that one. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Next up, consider action, if any, regarding items discussed in closed session. We do have the personnel report. If there's not any discussion on that, I would entertain a motion.
President, I move to approve the personnel report as discussed in closed session.
I second.
Great, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That item is approved. Next up, we've got the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. The consent agenda is approved. Awesome. Next up, governance. Let's see, board member reports. I think we started with Mr. Fryer last time. So did I have that? We're gonna start over here or just start in the middle, just go crazy? Yeah.
You're the prez.
Yeah, Mr. Senna, let's start over here just to mix it up.
Okay, just an update on legislative activities. Last week, I traveled to Dallas to attend the annual workshop of the Texas School Coalition, which is the property wealthy group of districts, and we had about 55 school districts represented there, and Bernie was asked to make a presentation on how we advocate for our objectives, for public school objectives in Austin and with our state legislators. So there was some good interaction on that. There were a lot of good presentations made on kind of a forecast of where the speaker thinks the next legislative session is going to be. I would make an editorial comment that so much of the discussion was backward looking to what happened in the last session or what didn't happen in the last session regarding public school finance, as well as concerns about vouchers. And my own personal opinion is we really need to move forward to say what we are going to advocate for public schools in the next session, because the political winds have changed quite a bit in terms of who's going to be sitting in the legislature, and support for some form of education savings accounts does seem to be stronger. So in any event, my own personal opinion is we need to transition to focusing on why we need a substantial increase in the basic allotment, because unlike private schools who can raise their tuition whenever they need to based on inflation, we have not gotten a raise in per pupil funding in 5 years, despite 22% cumulative inflation. I think that's a pretty powerful argument to make and to stand on our own. The other thing, we're going not this week, but next week to TASA TASB gathering convention in San Antonio, and there's going to be the delegate assembly in Dallas. This will be your first turn as a delegate, as a member of the TASB board of directors. I get to be a delegate as well. Normally about 20% of Region 20 sends a delegate to the delegate assembly, and that's where we come up with priorities and things that TASB representatives or school board members are going to advocate for in Austin. Normally we get 20%. So far we're up to 60% participation from our region. I think that's largely due to the fact that this year's convention's in Region 20 in San Antonio, so it makes it easier. However, those of us on the TASB board from this region have been reaching out to all the other districts to say you need to be a part of this. So we're hoping to hit 80% attendance. We want to be the #1 district. We do have a bet with the Austin region, and we actually asked for points because they're the center of government and they probably have a built-in advantage, but they didn't want to give us any points on the bet. So that's the way it goes. But after that meeting, we're going to, the three of us Carol Harrell from Northside, Ginger Friesenhahn from East Central, and myself. We're going to do regional meetings throughout Region 20 as to how to effectively advocate for your district with your state reps and so forth, because a lot of the smaller districts really, they're just not engaged, and they need to be engaged. So those are just some of the things as we get ready for the next session, which starts in early January of 25.
All right, well, I'll give the next update here. I'm looking forward to just some upcoming committees I'm going to be a part of: System of Care, Health Advisory Committee, Communications, and District Education Improvement Committees. But the one that I actually got to attend, which was early November, was over at Viola Wilson Elementary School. Miss Lizette, she was amazing to Miss Thompson to show us around, give us a tour. That was the highlight of the meeting at the end. No offense to Mark. Your portion was also exciting. And I'll explain that. So we got to go through just basically the budget, and that's a lot of fun just to look and see where we are with a remaining budget for the 2022 bond. We talked about the current budget, contingency, and the soft costs. We talked about the furniture replacement program, how not all the furniture was intended to be purchased, but we will continue purchasing additional furniture as funds become available. So that was something that was also really talked about in that meeting. The land acquisition for stadium, possible third high school was also discussed, and we were just still in negotiations about that. Technology budget was discussed. Thank you so much. Additional costs, construction updates, just a general update on the 3 projects that are concurrent and going on right now. Viola Wilson, again, just to see the tour and to see all that was accomplished there in 11 months timeline. It's a little mind-blowing when you see how they did meet the deadlines. And yes, there's still punch list items that we can see, but they really are working overtime to just wrap this project up, and it looks so nice. The ribbon cutting was just an exceptional time just to really celebrate the success of the building there. The BHS P-Tech High School Health Science Building was another item in the bond that we got to really celebrate a ribbon cutting, but we got to talk about the project and how that was a bond project that was just a success, as well as our Aquatics Learning Center, which we're super excited to say that it's going to be complete very, very soon. So we're thrilled about that. But it was a great meeting. We also got some great news about buses that we are going to be, we did purchase, let's see, some additional buses have been purchased. There's a 6 to 9 month lead time. However, as they become available, we will be getting them. So I know transportation has been tricky, but we have 100 new bus riders, and the count's probably growing rapidly. So thank you so much for patience with transportation. I know they've been working around the clock, but good news is additional buses have been purchased. And then also update on student counts. It's been amazing to see that we had a budget of 11,060 students, and now we are up to 11,100 students. Did I get that right? Okay, so we're super excited. Just we're obviously just doing great things at Bernie ISD, and students continue to come. So we welcome them with open arms, and we can't wait to hear how much they love it here. So that is the goal. And again, we just ended with a tour, and it was a highlight of the night just to see the progress and however, all the work that it took. Everybody was so excited just to show us around. So it was a great meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you, Courtney. I have a PTO president's report. So the PTO presidents met with Dr. Kraft for their first PTO president's meeting. And the leaders got to go around and share successful things that they've been a part of at their campus since school started. So that was a fun time. They also mentioned that they're starting subcommittees kind of to help with the board, just to help with functions such as volunteer coordination, service project, and membership drives. Dr. Kraft provided district updates discussing the start of the year with enrollment and transportation. Ms. Pomeroy was in attendance, and she provided an overview of the BISD system of care. And the meeting concluded, as it normally does if time allots, just for the PTO presidents to have a collaboration time together to talk about what the things that they're doing and then a question and answer session. One fun thing that's new as far as I can remember for BISD is Mr. Hatton, the Academy will be getting its first PTO president all to itself. So congratulations, Tiffany Muir. Tiffany Muir, who was a longtime tutor there, agreed to take that PTO role for the Academy to make sure that they're supported throughout the year as we normally do. Thank you.
Great. Okay, the Finance Committee met, but I'll leave that to Carlin. He's good with numbers, so. You know. No. I was just, no, BF, we haven't met yet this month, but we meet Wednesday night, so we'll have an update on that one next time.
Safety and security, we have our next meeting next month. So I'll give a good update afterwards at our board meeting. Do want to let you know, this is great news. We had our first intrusion detection audit last week, and we passed with flying colors at FABRA. So yay, good news there. Thank you.
And I too, my committees, we start actually Thursday, and then we have the TASB stuff coming on next week. So I'm excited to hopefully at the next meeting have a lot of good news to report.
All right, I'll talk about the Finance Committee meeting. We met on the 11th of September, and we met jointly at the beginning of our meeting with our 3 representatives that this board has appointed to the Kendall County Appraisal District. Great conversation. Mr. Scott led that. Just an emphasis on timely and accurate information coming in, specifically from Kendall County, and certainly the reliance that we have on those numbers that they give us and the trickle-down effect that has, obviously from a budgeting standpoint. We then had some conversations about Bear Appraisal District and what their reappraisal plan that they've introduced is, and where they will be switching to appraise properties every 3 years versus every year, which can be disadvantageous to us. And so, or did I do that backwards?
Just want to know, we got an email about 4:30 today that they adopt a reappraisal plan that's not do that.
Okay, good.
They're sticking with their.
Thank you for the update. Perfect. And then the final conversation, well, not the final, we had a couple others, ran a long meeting. We also, as we get to pick 3 board members for the Kendall Appraisal District, we're the largest collector of taxpayer dollars for Kendall County. We have a much smaller impact in Bear County, and so our number of votes is pretty minimal there. And so we just talked about really not going through the nomination process because we don't have any influence in that, kind of splitting our vote. We went over the budget amendment that we're going to discuss later on this evening with Mr. Scott for the first budget amendment of this budget cycle, and then went over our investment policy and broker-dealer updates, which we made no changes to the broker-dealers that we approved and have presented. Well, actually, it was approved in the consent agenda. So I think that was all of the Finance Committee meeting items. The only other thing I think I'd talk about, and actually, Christy, I'm going to ask you to kind of chime in here too. This was kind of an ad hoc thing, but I think it's important to kind of talk about. Earlier in the school year, or right at the beginning of the school year, there were a number of accidents at Bernie High School's entrance. And so, Christy, thank you for reaching out, call it aggressively, let's use that word, to try to get some attention to that. And interestingly enough, it happened, her emails on the same morning that I was at a Kendall County Economic Development Summit. Christy was at that as well. And I sat between 2 gentlemen from TxDOT. One was our regional rep, and one was the rep over all of San Antonio. Christy had been emailing them that morning on their way in, and within 7 days, I think it was, we had a meeting to kind of discuss the items that had been, or the accidents that had been happening there at Bernie High School at that entrance. And so great representation was pulled together very quickly. I'll call this ad hoc, but we had representatives from TxDOT, from DPS, from the county, from the city, from Bernie Police Department, Bernie ISD, Operations, Safety and Security. Mr. Wilson was there, but certainly just want the community to know, and specifically those around Bernie High School, that it's, we recognize that there's an issue there, and the whole community basically does. TxDOT is kind of taking the lead on a traffic impact study to kind of help evaluate that area, but no immediate answers or solutions to that, but it's certainly got everyone's attention. So, Christy, thank you for pulling that together.
Yeah, I'm trying to. No, I think you summed it up very well. Just thank you to Mr. Richard Chapman for getting us, that connection fairly quickly, and for that summit, it was just good timing. So we'll continue to follow up just to make sure the traffic's steady. Mr. Stahl, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. I met with MTR this afternoon, and with Legacy, their third-party investigator. We went ahead and authorized them to do that work. Their first traffic study will be this Friday night at the homecoming game, and then the following week they will be at the Champion High School football homecoming football game. So they'll be flying a drone out there, so nobody shoot it down, please, and doing some analysis to gather data. So we have seen movement on that.
Right.
Good deal. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that in. It's really good. Thanks to both of you guys for doing that. Okay, so that sums up the board member reports. Next we have Dr. Kraft.
Sorry, I'm struggling with my microphone also, so thank you, Mr. Wilson. So first of all, I want to say thank you to our leaders for being here. There's amazing things happening across every campus, which is no surprise. Today, I got to see a silent fire drill at a middle school. It was across the street, and it was a surprise for Daniel Owens, who received a state-level award. The TMEA Administrator of the Year was awarded to Daniel Owen by TMEA, and so we had a little surprise, and I was very impressed. Congratulations. And it's camo day over there, so it was a lot of fun. The kids did great, and the staff was really excited to keep it a surprise, and hopefully you were truly surprised and you didn't know. Well, thank you so much, and all of our leaders do a phenomenal job of supporting music education and fine arts. So thank you for making all those special moments. Look forward to spending time with you on Thursday at our principal meeting. This is a very busy place. It's a homecoming week, and all through all of my visits last year with parents and kids and community members, I heard all about the homecoming parades, and it was phenomenal. So thank you so much for walking along the parade or riding on the float, and we'll do another parade on Monday for Champion. I was at the volleyball game Friday night when the Bernie and Champion played. The gymnasium at Bernie High School was packed. The games were amazing. They were close all the way through, so it was a lot of fun. And when we're thinking about all the work our coaches have done to plan for those big events when Bernie plays Champion, no matter the gym, there's always a lot of planning that goes along with that. And so thanks to Rick Goodrich and our safety and security team, and to our administrators on duty, hundreds and hundreds of people were there, and it was a great event. Kids did great, parents did great. We will be releasing, even as soon as tomorrow, an opportunity for our community and parents to engage in what we're calling the Budget Strategy and Advocacy Committee. And so Mr. Scott and Yvette Reyna and I have been working very closely on what that engagement needs to look like as we consider our financial situation for the next school year. So districts everywhere are considering tight budgets, no new revenue coming in. We're all waiting on the legislative session to result in something, but we cannot stand by and wait. We have to get our community activated, and so we will bring you updates. We will be launching the application more than likely tomorrow, and so I do encourage all of you to really consider folks in your circle that you would like to encourage them to apply. And so that is coming down the pike. We'll have a few principals. We'll have our last 4 teachers of the year invited. We'll also be inviting our PTO presidents, and then we'll have the application open. And I want to just remind the board, we're working on setting the dates for our board and superintendent listen and learns with the students. And so it was an idea we heard about this summer. Principals will share more about it on Thursday, but this group right here, a small group of us, are going to be coming to high schools first, then middle schools, then the spring elementary schools, where we will be working with our principals to identify small groups of students, and we can have a conversation with our kiddos. I'm really excited about that. I also spoke at the Hill Country Newcomers Club last week. over 100 folks in attendance. They had great questions, and it was an amazing energy of folks from all walks of life who are new to the Hill Country and just connecting over common interests. And they're very interested in all we had to share about our great school district. Then I want to give a special thank you to Jeff Flynn with the Bernie Star because he has agreed to publish a superintendent column once a month. The first column was published on Saturday, and so working on that cadence of our topics just to keep school district news in the front and center. So we appreciate his support of our school district. And really exciting creative idea to have Bernie out at market days. So our HR team was there, recruiting, transportation was there, everyone had shifts to meet and greet. I spent some time there as well. And I talked to a young lady who's planning on moving here. And so you never know when you're gonna have a conversation with someone who may end up being a phenomenal employee for our school district. And so just wanna thank the creativity of our HR team to put that together. And with that, that concludes my report.
Wonderful. Lots of good stuff happening right now. Okay, next up, we've got Miss Fontecha with for the strategic for the bilingual ESL program report.
All right, let me get organized here. Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Dr. Kraft. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you today. I am Triana Fontecha, Director of Multilingual Programs in Bernie ISD. It is my privilege to share with you tonight the annual Bilingual ESL Education Program Report. Tonight highlights the progress made in serving our emergent bilingual students and outlines the successes, ensuring equitable, high-quality education for all students in our district. These are our Bernie ISD long-term strategic goals. We focus on 4 areas: student success, talent, fiscal responsibility, and family and community engagement. Although I have referenced all 4, tonight is about the EB student success. Our EB programs are designed to address the affective, linguistic, and cognitive needs of our students. They are committed to exemplifying the Bernie ISD core values. Our language programming in Bernie ISD is we have bilingual education programs. We have dual language, one-way immersion. These are our pre-K students at select campuses. We've got dual language, two-way immersion at our dual language campuses. We have ESL, English as a second language, 2 models, the 2 state models, the ESL content-based, and that is where all core teachers are ESL certified, and we have ESL pull-out. It is not what it implies. We never pull children out of the classroom. Pull-out is that the ELAR teacher is the ESL certified educator. And in our inaugural year, we have Spanish immersion. The intention for Spanish immersion is 1st through 5th. This is our first year, and we have 2 first grade classrooms at Cibolo Creek Elementary. Our EB enrollment as of the creation of this presentation, it has changed, was 725. Pending LPAC, I met with the LPAC administrators yesterday. I did notice that it was an additional 38 students. And reclassification. When students are reclassified from being currently served emergent bilingual students, that means that they require a language program. To become reclassified means that they have met the state criteria to become monitor students. Please notice that we went from 16 students to 111 students. Yay, that was a huge amount. TEA did update their criteria. What changed was that the TELPAS test expectation. In 23, the TELPAS test required that the students obtain an advanced high score in each of the language domains, in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. For 24, the change was that the 4 language domains should average to a TELPAS composite of advanced high. So that was the distinction there. The misconception is that TELPAS is the only measure that we have for meeting reclassification. It is not. Students in 1st and 2nd grade and 11th and 12th grade, in addition to the TELPAS metric, also must obtain a 40th percentile in reading and language arts on the Iowa test. It's of basic skills. It's a norm reference test. So that is for first and second and 11th and 12th. Students in grades 3 through 8 must attain an approaches or above level on STAR reading with no linguistic accommodations. Students in 9th and 10th have to attain an approaches level or higher on the English 1 EOC, English 2 EOC respectively, with no linguistic accommodations. But wait, there's one more metric, a teacher subjective evaluation. They must provide anecdotal information and their recommendation whether the child will be successful without linguistic accommodations. So as you can see, it's a combination of assessments to determine if students meet reclassification. So we are very proud of the 111 students. The languages spoken in Bernie, we have 34 other languages than English spoken in Bernie. They are represented. It doesn't mean that we are servicing all 34, but they are represented. Some students do not meet the eligibility to be an EB, but it's quite impressive to say that we have 34 different languages in Bernie. The top 3 languages are Spanish, Telugu, and Tamil. Waivers and exceptions. School districts can request a bilingual exception and or ESL waivers from the Commissioner of Education, TEA, for the approval to implement a temporary alternative language program. This is to ensure that all students continue to receive quality language instruction. Currently, we have 12 teachers on an ESL waiver and 5 teachers on the bilingual exception. Please note that this report will be submitted to TEA by November 1st. Just today, we had an ESL prep session, 2 sessions actually, an AM and a PM. We give the teachers an opportunity to understand what's on the test, and we tell them to please immediately go sign up for the exam. Once they pass and they are successful on the test, we do reimburse the cost involved. The emergent bilingual support initiatives include Summit K-12. Summit K-12 is an online platform that serves 2 purposes. 1, it ensures that the teacher's capacity in understanding what the ELPs are, the English language proficiency skills. Those are the standards that are assessed on TELPAS. It builds their capacity of understanding on how to plan for instruction and delivery of instruction. And the other purpose is that the students are allowed to get on the platform, navigate the platform, answer questions in the TELPAS format, experience TELPAS before the TELPAS test. TELPAS isn't a one-time event in the year. We must build up to it, and it's not as easy as everyone thinks. It's a tricky test, and so we make sure that our students understand what it's going to take to earn the points on those respective questions. Elevation Strategies is new. We use Elevation online platform for LPAC, where we document our LPAC meetings, and we also have what's called strategies. We're really excited about this. Teachers get to log in. When they log in, they get to see who their emergent bilingual students are, how many they have. It pulls in the data, how they did on TELPAS, how they did on STAR, and this is really the neat part. If I have a student, for example, who's a 4th grade student who is scoring at the intermediate level in reading, they plug in that criteria, and then Elevation provides them videos, Blackline Masters, sample lessons, helps build the teacher capacity in understanding how to specifically linguistically accommodate for the students. So that one we're really super excited about. We have had the 4EB instructional coaches and our dual language Spanish immersion coordinator. We are grateful, truly grateful, for the invaluable support provided by our EBICs and our newest team member, our dual language Spanish immersion coordinator. They support all of our campuses. They play a crucial role as liaisons between our schools, students' homes, ensuring effective communication and understanding. And additionally, our EBICs and dual language Spanish immersion coordinator are instrumental in supporting teachers by enhancing their skills and building their capacity to better serve our emergent bilingual students. Their efforts are essential in creating a supportive and inclusive learning environment for all. I can't live without them. They're outstanding. They truly are. With regards to our state assessments, our initiatives have contributed to our students' performances on STAR and TELPAS. In 2024, 75% of all students attained STAR academic growth, and 61% of our EB students attained STAR academic growth. In math, 69% of all students attained STAR academic growth, and 66% of our EB students attained STAR academic growth. We are closing the gaps in math, and we are narrowing down and getting super focused for reading as well. We have to be very focused and specific in our efforts to ensure that we begin to close that gap and continue to close the gap. This is a proud moment, TELPAS. And so the federal government sets the target. And so you can see that in high school, the federal government set the target of 34%. What that means is that they expect that 34% of high school students increase in 1 to 2 levels, the TELPAS progress rate. In Bernie ISD, in 2024, which is the gray bar, 59% of our high school students increased 2 levels or more in the TELPAS progress. Very proud moment there too. In middle school, the federal target is 44%. 74% of our middle school students, EB students, increased in TELPAS progress. And in elementary, the federal target rate is 49%. 74% of our elementary school EB students increased 1 to 2 levels, and that was quite impressive. As a district, our average is 68%. 68% of our emergent bilingual students increased 2 levels or more, demonstrating TELPAS progress rate. At the region level, the average was 50%. And at the state level, it was 50%. So we were very proud of those efforts. We also engage our students. Every year, our students are invited to participate in the Spanish Spelling Bee. It begins at the campus level, progresses to the district level, and finalizes at the region level. These are our 3 first-place winners at the district level. We have Dana Finley, representing Kendall Elementary, Daniel Salic Murillo, representing Bernie Middle School North, and Diana Dominguez, representing Bernie High School. Last year was the first time that high school students participated. We were very excited about that. And they were all 3 participants at the Region 20 Spanish Spelling Bee. We engage our students, families, and community with events such as El Día del Niño, or Day of the Child. It is about recognizing the importance of children in society and promoting their well-being. We participate in the Day of the Dead, or Día de los Muertos, which combines an ancient Aztec custom of celebrating ancestors with All Souls Day. This holiday is like a family reunion, honoring loved ones who have passed on. And a much anticipated celebration is the tamalada. It is a tradition where family and friends gather to make tamales, a traditional dish often around Christmas time. And the word tamalada literally means a tamal-making party. We are very proud to have a strong partnership with our local public library, where librarian Constance Kermes graciously hosts meriendas, afternoon snack gatherings for our dual language teachers. In return, the library actively participates in our family engagement events, offering snacks, activities, and most importantly, helping our families sign up for library cards. This collaboration not only strengthens our programs, but also fosters a deeper connection between our community and the valuable resources our library provides. To the board and Dr. Kraft, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate your commitment to supporting our multilingual learners as we continue to strengthen our bilingual and ESL programs. Your ongoing leadership is essential in fostering an inclusive learning environment that empowers every student to thrive, pointing out that EB students play a vital role in enriching the district's community through their unique cultural and linguistic perspectives. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Well, before I ask my questions, I want to thank you. In my 11 years on the board, I think this is probably the most comprehensive and good news sharing presentation I've seen. You know, one of my questions was going to be how we compare to the region and the state. You answered that. We were way above them, which is great. These are some dramatic improvements. What do you see as the main reasons for that progress?
Organization is the key to success and being very strategic in our efforts. Identifying who are the teachers who are serving our EB students. When I first came on board, first thing I asked, do they even know who their EB students are? So we have what's called the Getting to Know Your EBs folder rollout. Every teacher that has an EB student is presented with a folder by the EBICs, and they go through data about the children, their performance, who are they, and then getting to really know who they are, and really looking at our children as having another language as asset-based. So that had to become more than just an indicator in Skyward. I see EB, that's my EB. We had to dig deeper and truly know who the children were. And then, of course, who are our teachers who are servicing our EB students, build their capacity and understanding. I always go from I'm a big macro thinker, but in this particular case, I had to go from the micro to the macro, identifying those individuals and making sure that we focus on them. And then the following year, bringing in more individuals and building that manner. It can be overwhelming to try to teach everyone on the campus. So we try to focus in on those specific individuals. So we're organizing the staff, we're making sure that they have the tools that they need, and where are the kids? Where have they been strategically placed? So that becomes another layer of organization. And then organization of the resource. Summit K-12 had been in Bernie ISD for years. When I came on board as an assistant principal at South, I knew Summit K-12 was here. Okay, let's go for it. And then I came into this position. We really realized we need to organize our efforts, timeline it. What are the expectations? Train the teachers how to navigate. We're still learning. We're still uncovering more things that Summit K-12 can do for us, but it definitely comes down to being very strategic in our efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question was, you mentioned there was 38 other identified. Does that, now that brings us to 763, which is about 7% of our district. Are those kids just in emerging bilingual? I assume that does not include the native English speakers.
34 languages that you're referring to?
Well,
or what did you say?
No, there's 725 students that were listed as EB, but you mentioned there's 38 more that were identified. So that's about 7% of our district. I'm assuming that does not include native English speakers who were in dual language. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
They are the English proficient student that they do participate in the program, but they're not identified emergent bilingual students.
Okay.
The state sets the identification process. And so, no, that would not include them. When I say that number of 735, those are children who have been identified, who have a need for a language program, whether that language program be bilingual or that language program be ESL. And so the state sets the procedures and the policy. So the parents enroll children, they fill out a home language survey. The home language survey has 3 essential questions. If any one of those questions identifies a language other than English, we are obligated to assess the child's level of language proficiency. And that is not an assessment that's internal, that's an approved assessment by TEA. Pre-LOS for the pre-K students and LOS links. Once that assessment is conducted, it's taken to the LPAC committee. The LPAC committee convenes and they make the recommendation. Which language program does this child need? And then we obtain parent permission. Once we have parent permission, then we code them in Skyward, and that's the number. So that number represents parents approving the program.
Sure. Okay, and I realize that a majority of our EB students are Spanish speaking, but with 34 languages, and my daughter's a teacher, and one year she had a young girl in 4th grade who literally had just came here from Vietnam like a week earlier, no English. I said, how on earth do you teach her? So by the end of the year, she was doing pretty well. But how do you deal with, in a classroom, somebody, Spanish, we have the dual language. How do you deal with all these other languages?
Very good question, because language is the vehicle, and we do not want to stop children from thinking. And so here recently, this is year 34 for me, a lot has changed since I first started teaching. But we have concepts like translanguaging, and translanguaging allows the child to use whatever is in their language repertoire to think. However, the teacher holds the student accountable to the English language. That's really the easy part. Sentence stems, visuals, gestures, bring on. So that's the easy part, but we want them to be able to think in their own language, so they get to do that. They can translate, teachers can't translate. Nowadays, with our devices, kids can just look over, oh, okay, now we need to make sure that they can read. In the early grades, it's a lot easier. The skills are about teaching children to read, and so it's faster. The older kids, it's a little challenging. So when we do get the students from other countries, first and foremost, can they read? We have to determine that. Do they need to learn to read, and where do we take them? Summit K-12 has a fabulous component of foundational literacy skills. It literally takes them from the phonemic awareness to reading and answering telepath questions. And so the teacher becomes that ESL certified, all the other languages. They're equipped in second language acquisition strategies. I always like to say it's best practices, but it really is best practices. Good teaching is good teaching. You leave no stone unturned. You label, it's a print-rich environment. And kids are just absolutely resilient and amazing. So it's not as simplistic as I made it seem, but the teachers we just go for it. And let's make content comprehensible in a very compelling manner. Something as simple as don't turn your back. You need to be facing children. Your rate of speech, your gestures, your visuals, the support that the children will use to ensure that they're understanding. I could go on and on. It's my wheelhouse.
Okay, well, I was in your daughter's telepass class at Voss during the Little League game.
Yes.
And I think there were kids from 6 or 7 countries.
Oh, yeah, that's
that one
Ross Middle
class.
School, and that EB, yes, she has the EB advisory. When I spoke about strategically placing children, that EB advisory, I recruited her. I said, you've got to do this for me, please. And so she took on the 15 kids at the time, and it's a little League of Nations. It's a lot of different children.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
I just wanted to jump in and just say what a beautiful presentation. It's very inspirational to hear you speak. Well, obviously you're very well spoken, but the content of what you shared tonight it really showcases our core value of every child every day. It's very moving. And I just had a quick question for you. You may not know percentages or anything, but I'm curious as far as elementary, middle, and high school, do the numbers vary of the 7%, the 763 students? Do you see it a greater number
I
at
don't have a
elementary?
percentage, but just, I've got skyward tiles in my brain right now. Because of the reclassifications, the numbers dramatically decreased at the high school level.
Okay.
Elementary schools, Kendall Elementary, I think it's at 122. They're pretty high up there. There are quite a few students. So elementary is a high number. Middle school and high school, a little bit less. Yeah.
It's exciting to see the 111. What a huge jump from last year. So congratulations to you and your team. And
Thank you.
keep
so
inspiring.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Fontecha. Wonderful. Next up, let's see, we have Dr. Rhodes Pruin for our next presentation.
President Wilson, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Kraft. Want to share with you some of the highlights of what we've been doing in human resources and talent. In the past 3 months since I arrived, we've had lots of opportunities to look at systems and strategies and do some data mining and really think about where we want to have some high priority systems in place. And so it's been a great time and have a great team to work with. So you saw the district scorecard earlier. I just want to draw your attention to what our talent tile talks about, and it really is talking about providing or prioritizing opportunities for all of our employees to perform at and aspire to the highest level of professional growth and performance. And so as we started this work, one of the things I wanted to do with our T-tests is introduce a new T-test appraisal tool. And that's going to really help us be able to provide strong feedback to our teachers and allow our administrators to calibrate across the district. And so I won't talk a lot about appraisal today, but I wanted to mention that's one of those pieces that in addition to some of the other work we're doing, we are touching some of those areas as well, just to be able to provide that support across the district. So as we think about kind of our three major focus areas in talent, I want to talk about how we're reimagining recruitment, how we're looking at retaining staff through career pathways, and then our goal to rebrand and launch our mentor milestones process. So Dr. Kraft mentioned that this weekend we had the opportunity to be at Bernie Market Days, which was a lot of fun. We talked to tons of families, a number of families that were moving into the area, that teachers, talked to a lot of retirees. I was very grateful to Mark and his team for supporting us out there with talking to folks about transportation. But our goal is really to create a recruitment plan where we are increasing our presence not only at recruitment events, but also at community events. We want to create some goodwill and really start to get people talking positively about the district and wanting to be part of our district. And so I just listed some of the recruitment events that we've done, and then also some of those that are coming up that we've got on the books already. Last year, the team went to 5 recruitment events during the entire year. This year, you can see the events that we already have scheduled and have gone to. Our next event will be at Homecoming Game Friday night, trying to get people interested in working for the district and some of those vacancies that we have. But we're really trying to think outside of the box. How do we create opportunities to get our name out there? So it's not just recruiting events, but it's community events, it's other events within the city where we're able to build that passion for the district. The other piece I wanted to share is what we are hearing as we go out to recruitment events is people tell us all the time, you're so far away. Bernie, it's so far away. Aren't you guys like an hour outside of San Antonio? So our new tagline this year is, Bernie, it's closer than you think, right? So I just, as I was starting to look at the district, right, I just put some milestones on there. So UTSA is about 15 to 20 minutes. And so actually had an opportunity to talk with one of our UTSA partners today, and she mentioned that we have a number of student teachers who are actually requesting to teach in Kendall County. So, and they're starting to realize how close Bernie is. But even if we look at surrounding cities, Comfort is 15 to 20 minutes away. Even Kerrville is only about 35 to 40 minutes away. So we have a large area to draw from. So not only are we wanting to go after those student teachers, but how do we encourage and entice those teachers, those great teachers, to come to us from other areas as well? The other piece we are really trying to think through is how do we retain staff through career pathways? So the district already had a career pathway for our Elevate program. We have currently 5 former teaching assistants who are working on their degrees in bilingual, or their certification in bilingual and special education. And so we're maintaining that program, but we're also introducing programs like you see here, the Child Nutrition Career Pathway. So as we began to look at data, one of the things we noticed is that we are turning over about 50% of our child nutrition staff a year, which is a lot of folks to turn over, a lot of retraining. And so we began to look at what are some ways we can encourage staff to want to stay in the district. So Nadine Espinosa, who's my director of recruiting and retention, had an opportunity to meet with our child nutrition team and really talk about what are the needs. We looked at how we can take some existing positions and create 2 assistant manager positions, 1 at each of the high schools, and then also create a cafeteria manager intern. So this is not any new positions, it is budget neutral. We're taking existing positions to create this, and what this will do for us is it will create a pathway to hopefully keep folks wanting to stay in the district, but also if we have somebody who goes out on leave, or if we have somebody who leaves the district in one of these roles, we have somebody ready to step up right into that role. So we're really excited about rolling this out, just because we want to try to reduce that turnover rate. And then with our mentor program, so I've had the opportunity to work with Dr. Jane Burton, and she's been an amazing partner in thinking through how do we create these mentor milestones, right? How do we create this program where we're not only meeting the state requirements around mentorship for our first and second year teachers, but how are we creating a program where we are able to develop the staff who are developing those teachers, and also create teachers that we want to keep in the district for years to come. So we, with Jane's help, we put together, she really kind of led the charge on creating mentor training, and it was very well received by our mentors. We are working on creating a new mentor handbook so that mentors have step-by-step guidelines about what they're doing each month to support teachers, and then also thinking through new teacher resources. So how are we bringing together our new teachers, our first and second year teachers, to find out how we can support them better, what resources they need, what specific training they might need, because we know that teachers if we're going to lose a teacher, it's typically in the first 3 years. And so we really want to create a strong program to support that wraparound support for those new teachers so that it keeps them in the district. Like I mentioned, I had an opportunity today to talk with UTSA, and it was a great conversation. We are starting the discussion around a teacher residency. And so really thinking through how can we create this pathway for clinical teachers to stay in our district, both with unpaid and possibly paid residencies in the future, and for her to say that she's had a number of her students who want to teach in Kendall County, that's a great thing, because a lot of times we don't have as many student teachers. Right now we only have 7 in the district. Our goal just with UTSA, if we're able to move forward, is we're trying to look for a minimum of 10 just with UTSA alone next year. So really building that group, but that mentor program is going to be key to ensuring that those new and novice teachers are really supported as they start their teaching career. And that's really all I have. I just wanted to share those 3 major areas we're working on, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you. We've talked at nauseum almost at finance committee meetings and even at the board level about recruiting and what our retention looks like, the challenges that we've had in food service and transportation. So, the outside the box activities that are taking place are great. And I just want to commend you on that. The job fairs, market days, all of these things, wherever we are that we can be recruiting and sharing the Bernie story is great.
Yeah, I appreciate, Jill, the creativity and looking at different ideas in a way to recruit and retain people. I happened to be at market days the other day when you had like 4 or 5 or 6 of our people there. And just in listening to you talk now, the discussions that you had with folks went way beyond just, hey, are you interested in a job? I wasn't aware that you had that many newcomers to Bernie who were there learning about the district. It's just good public relations to educate our community. One thing I think we should, and I'm glad to hear you say, Bernie, it's closer than you think. I think that's a great tagline, because when you think about it, 2 of our schools are in Bexar County, and 3 of our 13 are almost on the county line. So really, if you live near UTSA, even at Wurzbach Road or whatever, I mean, you're really not that far from those schools, and then put another 5 minutes and you're in the middle of Bernie. So I think that's really good. But one thing I do think we should be aware of is the percentage of our staff that actually lives in the district. And I think the last time we checked in our teaching staff, it was something like 64, 65%. So a lot of times people think, well, our teachers can't afford to live here. Well, if you're 1 income, I think that's right. But if you're a 2 income family, or if you're a single individual, that's a different ball game. And we actually have a lot. And then when you look at those that don't live in our district, a lot of them live near UTSA or Leon Springs or Candalia or closer to Bulverde. I mean, they're pretty close to the district. So that would be good information to have just for our own knowledge,
We've actually started gathering that just because as we begin to look at our pay for our lowest paid employees, and is there affordable housing? That's one of the areas that we're starting to explore, just to see what that looks like. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Great, thank you.
Also, thanks for, anything like you bring up partnering with UTSA. And I love that, the chance to do that and to do more of those types of activities. I mean, realistically, a lot of kids that graduate BISD and go to college, they're going to go to UTSA, And so I love having that relationship with them. And anything we can do to further that's good.
And I will share one of the things we're really excited about. On September 24th, we actually have 16 education and training students from Champion High School coming to the district. And these are people that want to be teachers. So we're really trying to think about how do we partner with them before they even graduate so that they come back to us and do their student teaching with us and stay with us.
I was actually going to mention that, so thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for working with our current high school students as well, and for all you're doing. It's awesome. Teaching is an honorable profession.
Anything else? Any questions? Okay, great. We'll go on to the next one. We've got another compensation proposal. So, Mr. Stahl and Ms. Rhodes-Pruen, I guess y'all are back.
Yes, so I will start, and Mark and Jill will join us at the microphone, and Wes will feel free to jump in at any moment because we are talking dollars. So I do want to, first of all, thank the board. Our conversation ever since the start of school, and really sending you updates, and we always want to do as much as we can for our employees. We know that we had a very tight budget adoption process. We spent a lot of time this spring talking about different scenarios and what were we comfortable proposing. And so I know we've explored many scenarios, but we continue to face staffing struggles in a few key areas. And so tonight you're going to hear an update on transportation, and you'll also hear an update on highly specialized role in special education. We are continuing to analyze our budgets and really looking for efficiencies, and so I'm pleased with the update that you're going to hear tonight as we request your support. Well, let's give them a chance to pull the screen up. All right, while they're trying to figure it out, Mark is ready to go. So go ahead and we'll catch up with the slides.
Oh, thank you. I'm certainly honored to come up here and speak and represent the Transportation Department. President Wilson, Dr. Kraft, members of the board. We certainly appreciate your service and involvement and leadership in the ongoing transportation discussions over the past year. Although it may not seem like it, we have actually made strides in addressing transportation challenges. Here we go. Excuse me. We've hired 5 new drivers. We continue to provide a pathway for drivers without a CDL to earn their CDL. Thank you. And we've launched a retention incentive program at the end of last school year for our drivers. Additionally, we've formed a new transportation leadership team to manage operations, and we've implemented critical upgrades to technology. These include improvements to routing, fleet maintenance, and communication systems. We've hired Sherry Lawson, a recently retired transportation director with over 30 years of experience as a professional temporary employee, not only to provide oversight, but insight into our transportation department. Sherry will be working closely with our team to assess current practices and make recommendations for improvements. Additionally, I'm very proud that we've formed a committee which is comprised of our drivers, where we sit down and we analyze and discuss routes and department operating procedures to improve efficiencies. Despite this progress, we are still facing a driver shortage. We need to hire 10 more drivers, and we seek a field trip coordinator. Since March of 2024, 12 bus driver offers have been declined due to pay. 7 drivers have resigned since April. The impact of these resignations has been felt throughout the district. Ridership has increased significantly since last year, 4,000 students, which is an increase of about 30%. This increase further strains our already limited resource and highlights the urgency for addressing our transportation needs. To address these ongoing challenges, we propose increasing pay for bus drivers and fleet mechanics with CDLs by $3 per hour, raising the starting wage for our bus drivers to $19 per hour. Currently, Boerne ISD has the lowest starting pay in the area at $16 per hour, while other districts like Comfort ISD start at $25.93 per hour. This would increase and help us become more competitive in attracting and retaining drivers. The estimated budget impact of this proposal is $240,000. However, this investment would alleviate the pressure on staff, reduce the need for route cancellations, and ultimately improve service and reliability to our community.
So the other item we wanted to share with you is a request for a special education highly specialized stipend. And while we know we need to look at stipends district-wide, and we'll be doing that as part of the budget process for 25-26, we feel that there's a significant need for our highly specialized staff right now. So that highly specialized group includes speech language pathologists, the pathology assistant, school psychiatrists, diagnosticians, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. And with these individuals, they require industry licensure as well as advanced degrees, and many of them also require have nationally recognized standards for supervision and training. And so this is a very specialized group. It's very competitive for these roles in all of the districts in San Antonio. Part of what we want to share with you today is where we sit with our current pay. So if you notice these roles, you have the BISD average pay along with the Region 20 market group. And you can see from this graph, or from this the chart here, At a minimum, we are about 3.5% lower than the market average, and at a high, we're at over 23% below the market average. So this past year, we had 3 speech-language pathology vacancies, and for those 3 vacancies, we spent over $483,000 in contracted services. Right now, we have 7 vacancies. We have 2 school psychologists and 5 SLPs. We are projecting that if we don't get those filled, we're looking at over $1 million in contracted services to be able to support our students. And so with those additional information, we have had 8 SLPs decline offers for pay for the 24-25 school year. And since June, we've only received 2 applications for SLPs. One of those we actually hired, and then we've only gotten 3 applications for school psychologists. So the pool is very limited, and what we hear from those candidates that we make offers to is it's about the pay. And so what we're proposing is a $7,000 highly specialized stipend for these roles. It includes 32 allocations at an impact of $250,000. But as I mentioned, if we're not able to fill these positions, our concern is that we would be looking at over $1 million in contracted services. So by making this investment, we feel like it would significantly help reduce our amount of contracted services. What you'll see on this graph is when we are able to apply that $7,000 stipend, in most cases it brings us close to in most cases it brings us slightly above the market average, and it brings us up closer to the market average in both our PT and our speech language pathology assistant pay. And at this time, we'll answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I've got a few, and thank you for this information. It's very valuable and tells a clear story. Mark, do we pay for CDL licenses for applicants that don't have them?
Yes, sir, we do. We provide a pathway. It's an investment of roughly $4,000.
So minimal. Okay, thank you. I noticed with the $3 recommended raise for bus drivers, which I'm very happy that you're proposing, that puts us ahead of every other school district other than Comfort. Now, there are a few outliers out there. Fredericksburg, Dripping Springs somehow is way high. I can't figure that out. But there was an article in the Express News about a month and a half ago about bus driver pay, and it gave all the districts, and you've listed a bunch of them, but everyone seemed like they were in the $1,725, $1,750 range. So relative to other school districts, this recommendation really should make us, very competitive with other school districts, and even not bad with VIA. And I know Maurice has mentioned that and I don't know VIA's hiring practices, but they tend to give you the bad shifts. I think you said that, right, Maurice?
Yes, when you first start off, they give you like the late night shift, and so you don't have the best shifts. Whereas here, of course, we'll have the daytime shifts, and then you have the evenings free. So I think that'll make a big difference.
So my only question, I know Comfort still is way up there, but if I'm not mistaken, they don't get the hours that our drivers do they?
Correct. No, they don't. Even considering the pay, I would say they still have a challenge filling driver positions. I will say we have a tremendous transportation department. The people that we have over there are good people. They want to be here, and they're providing good leadership. Just my experience echoing Mrs. Rhodes-Bruin's comments about market days, most people we ran into, a lot of them asked about transportation. And most of them wanted to be here. So I only see this proposal helping if it's passed. So
I would agree. And the other thing is I noticed when we were looking at this in April and May, a lot of our veteran drivers are already at 21, 22, 23 an hour. So since you're proposing that they get the $3 along with the starting pay, they're going to be at a very, competitive wage. So I would imagine that'll help us with retention.
Yes.
Okay. And Jill, as far as the highly specialized positions, how many positions does that come to?
A total of 32 positions.
So it's about $7,000. You know, and when you mentioned, and I think this whole issue with contract workers, because we use contract services for some custodians, we use it. I wasn't aware of the extent that we used it for speech pathologists, et cetera. But I suspect if we're fortunate enough to get some hires fairly quickly out of this, that this cost, which shows up as a cost for the remainder of the budget, will actually pay for itself through the course of the year, I would hope.
That's what we're hoping. You know, our goal is, if this passes tonight, that we will start reaching out to those individuals who declined offers tomorrow morning to let them know that we've passed this and see if we can bring them back to Bernie. They applied here for a reason, and they just weren't able to take the positions because of pay. So if we can get them back because of pay, I think we'll be in good shape.
You know, the other question I have is that with our custodians, because I know that was ultimately the long-term answer is, if our budget is in a position due to an increase in the basic allotment for next year, which we hope the legislature does, to keep up with this inflation we've all experienced, we can really adjust our pay scales for our hourly workers, because at the end of the day, that's really the issue. If your starting pay for food service workers or custodians is $13.36 an hour, that's not a lot of money. So hopefully we can fix that. But I guess my question would be, the interim, you don't have the answer now, nor do I expect it. But when you look at the cost of hiring contract workers, let's say for custodians, what is the incremental cost to us versus if we hired a custodian at $15, $16 or $17, whatever, versus the $13.36 now? You know, would that also pay for itself? And I don't know the answer to that question. And we really don't know that either, because it all depends on whether we find the people. But I think that would be, if we can quantify that somehow, that would be good.
And I think that's part of the information that we'll be looking at as we begin the compensation analysis. I can tell you from my previous district, we did raise the living wage to $16.50 an hour, went from 15 to 16 to $16.50, and it made a significant impact in being able to fill some of our lowest wage positions because it was a living wage.
I agree. And you know, when I run into bus drivers at the coffee shop after they've done their morning shift, they will love working for the district, because they say the kids. In fact, I was talking to one guy that drives 20 miles. He goes, "I'd much rather drive a bus in Bernie than in the district where he lives." He said the kids are nicer. I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. I'm not surprised, but that's what he said. And he said he will continue to make the 20-mile drive because he enjoys the quality of life. So hopefully, with addressing the pay issue, we've got the quality of life. Hopefully that will lead us to the promised land.
Jill, quick question, if I remember correctly from the Finance Committee meeting, of the 32 of the highly specialized that would receive the 7,000, there were a number of those, 7 or 8, that are turned down our job offers, went to work for a contract company. They're in our district working right now.
We do. We actually have 3 school psychologists who left our district this past year and are working for a contractor in our schools. We have a number of the speech language pathologists that declined offers for us and are working for contractors in our district. And so our goal is that we will be able to pull them back.
So I realize from Mr. Scott's perspective, we have to do the budget amendment coming up next of, you know, what the incremental cost of it is, but ultimately I think the goal here is budget neutral. So, and I think it's really, we didn't talk about it tonight, but the same thing, not quite to the extent on the transportation side, because we're paying coaches and things much higher per hour salary than what to fill in from the lack of bus drivers, right? So that's going to lower what that fiscal and what the dollar impact is to the budget. I know we have to do the budget amendment to show what the worst case is, but I think it'll come in better than what we're anticipating. So.
Yeah, from a financial, fiscal responsibility standpoint, I'm just impressed. I think this is something that you would expect to see as far as just moving quickly and nimbly to, pay people more and look at ways we can be more fiscally responsible, really. Even though, as we're talking about, it looks like an increase. I mean, this is kind of how you'd expect a well-run small business to run, not necessarily a large organization. And so, I think this is good. I think I don't like the idea that we set the budget, we approve the budget at the beginning of the year, and then it just sits there on the shelf. It's something we should be making adjustments like we do, and always be looking for ways to do this. So, any other comments, questions?
Well, just that I know that, yes, these two recommended raises add to our budget expenditure, but I know that Wes has some good news on the revenue side in his presentation, which puts us in a better position than we were a couple months ago when we adopted the budget. So thankfully, we have that situation. So thank you.
Looks like we take this in two motions. You want me to I can do the first one?
Sure.
Got the second one.
Okay, so I would move that the Board of Trustees approve the compensation proposal to increase bus driver entry pay from $16 an hour to $19 an hour and increase current bus driver pay by $3 per hour.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Next up.
I move the Board of Trustees approve the compensation proposal to add an annually specialized stipend of $7,000 for the positions of speech-language pathologist, speech-language pathology assistant, licensed specialist in school psychology, diagnostician, occupational therapist, and physical therapist.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Both motions pass. All right, so we've got that. It is good news. Okay, great. Next up, Mr. Scott with the monthly financial report and board action on financial matters related to those reports.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You've received a report for the results of financial operations through August 31st. I'll talk about everything related to the financial budget. I mean, not related to the budget amendment first, and then we'll talk about the budget amendment because there's very little to talk about. You've got 2 weeks worth of school in these reports. You don't have actually any payroll expense related to teachers this year at this point in time. That won't happen until September. So there's very few things I'd like to point out. One of them being in the capital projects fund. Through August, we'd earned about $800,000 in the capital projects fund. So it's good to get it while you can. That's going to be going away soon. We're spending those monies down, so there's not much to earn money on. And our good Federal Reserve Board will meet this month. The expectation is that they'll start to lower interest rates. We'll see what actually happens, but we'll get as much as we can while we can. That's a good deal. We did receive $67,000 in donations from various PTOs and boosters to support the start of school, and we appreciate every dollar, every donated good, every minute given in the service of our children. Before I dive into the budget amendment, are there any questions or concerns related to the rest of the report?
Yeah, I've got a few questions. Well, actually, one thing I just wanted to point out that on the general fund, at the end of the last fiscal year, and I realize it's unaudited, but I think in your 5 years here, Wes, I don't know that the audited has ever been more than $1 off from what you came up. I don't think there's been any discrepancy with what you reported at the end of the year, so that's a good thing. But our fund balance comes up to over 3.1, almost 3.2 months, and I know that it's recommended that we have 2 to 3 months, preferably 2.5 to 3, and that we're over that. And even if we were to experience the deficit that we have on paper, last year at this time, we were forecasting a deficit and we ended up balancing the budget. So that would still leave us above 2.7. So we're even worst case scenario, I think we're in pretty good shape from the general fund perspective. One question I had on the debt service fund, I know we made our annual August payment for interest only, but our fund balance was over $11 million and our interest payment was $5.7 million. So I guess my question is, what is the recommended amount, or is there a recommended amount that we should have in fund balance above your August payment so that we never have to worry about making that August payment? And if we are over that number, what do we, do we pay off debt early, or how do we handle that?
You went by the bond rating analyst, they would have you have the February payment in there as well. Have a massive amount in fund balance for debt service. Thank goodness we don't make decisions based on there's no need for that, and that's exactly what you do when you have a little bit more in the fund balance for debt service fund. Apply to defeasement as we did when we adopted our budget.
So just paying off debt early. Great, thank you. And then on the special revenue fund, I noticed that the budget is way less than last year. Is that because of the ESSER money's gone?
Yes, yeah. We all the ESSER monies as of the September payroll that they're finishing up this evening. Every dollar of our ESSER.
Okay, that was it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll, are there any other questions or comments? All right, let's dive into the budget amendments. You have in front of you the detail of the budget amendment number 1. Remember that ideally we try to make about 3 budget amendments a year. We can do one whenever we need to, but generally the first one of the year is going to address leveling. You have a decent idea of how many students are going to be adjust your revenues. You need to or down in the regard. This is the time to do that. It also address any expenditures that we weren't aware of when we adopted the budget. The second budget amendment would address any changes that would come up during the year. I was trying to think of a really good example of there's always something that comes up. I can't think of, it's not going to be anything that's regular. Would ideally take the February time frame in your final budget amendment year, clean up, overspend your category. And so here's budget amendment number 1 for this year. We started out with a $5.2 million deficit. About 5% later. The first item would be the state funding updates. We knew in June when we were in the process of adopting the TEA had reconsidered how they addressed the district received money or recognized revenue for hold harmless for folks that were over 65. Changes that occurred with 12. It took the Texas Education Agency a long time to figure out exactly how they were going to implement that. And so, 7-year adjustment to our 2024 state funding because of that. That carries over 5 to the tune of about $1 million. We also had an increase to our transportation allotment that came in August. District submits their routes state. That was six-figure increase of over $100,000. And so when you adjust 23, 24, I was using 22, 23 up until that time. Carry that forward 24, 25. Same circumstance. Last year, started getting credit for refunds given to time. Went and bought a home, and you paid property tax on that home, and you applied for the homestead exemption, so you got some money back. We get credit for that. Reported to the state. 2023, August, we were by the assessor collector appraisal district that so or we also applied that all those results the compensation proposal that we talked about in detail is the second line item, salary adjustment. The special education contracted service relates to contracted service for students. 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's very little for providers that provide that kind of service. Significantly up. We have two aids that were necessary to add a couple of bilingual. Fourth item. Kendall County and Bear County, of budget in June, $205,000 ad, and the transportation that was mentioned before. That's the only one-time cost that we have. So budget. Remaining items are 21,000 per. The transportation, the automotive insurance increase. That's not an increase. There's employee job duties have been accounted for out of 51, but it's more properly accounted. His job duties haven't changed; it's more proper. That reduces the budget by $2 million down to $4.2 million. Just some perspective. As I want to provide a couple of other budget amendment ones that we've done in the last. Here's the one that we did last year. We started off with a $1 million budget, fairly normal and actually a good practice, in my opinion, to do deficit budgets with 2%. We did 5%. Talk about the circumstances related to state funding and inflation that is forcing our hand in that regard. But last year we adopted a $1.7 million budget. And we actually had a decrease as things that way. After we had all of those special sessions, we actually got a little bit of a hit that were made. A lot of that hit is related to we had budget 500 students come, 150 there, but recognized from the prior year surplus that we wanted to initiate a number of one-time costs. So we adopted deficit at that point in time, and most of those are one-time costs. Debit pay, all of that, any. Do know that there's a blue column. There's a $70,000 just appraisal. And then 2 years ago, where we adopted a budget, which is a deficit. and we added a number of one-time costs based on our surplus. Between these 2 years' budgets and what we have this year, very little one-time costs in there. So the need for the committee to Dr. Kraft earlier. So if you have questions or comments on budget amendment 1, I am happy to address it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my comment would be that, you mentioned it's not bad to adopt a deficit budget at the start of the year. It's less than 2%. Well, if you go back 2 years ago when we adopted a budget deficit of $1 million, we had a surplus of a few $1 million that year. And when we adopted a budget deficit of 1.7 million, which grew to over 4 million, we balanced the budget last year. So, and I think the reason for that is you are wisely very conservative on revenue estimates for investment income and property tax collection. And I think that's smart. That way you don't get into trouble. But I think that we generally outperform ourselves on revenue, and it's very difficult to spend all the money in the budget because irrespective of contracted services, there are some positions that are just going to remain open that you're not paying for. And so we usually have some savings. So, I won't hold you to it because I don't think we're way early in the budget year and you're not going to say, well, it's really not going to be 4 million, but I don't think it's really going to be 4 million. Okay. And you're smiling, which tells me you agree with me. Okay. So in any event, I'm much more optimistic than that. But you are right, and Dr. Kraft was right when she said earlier that we've got to prepare, and I'm glad we're doing this, convening this community group, because our community needs to understand the situations we face. And I think a lot of people in our community are under the impression, well, we're not paying Robin Hood anymore. We have 9 million more. Well, no, that went to tax cuts. We've reduced the tax rate substantially as required by legislation. So, yeah. So just thought I would add that in and get a chuckle out of you, Wes.
If I had magic white cowboy boots that were tucked in, where my pants were tucked into them, I could promise we would not have a deficit. What?
So Wes, I have 2 comments. One is thanks for pulling the information together on the first budget amendments for the last 2 years. I think that ended up being a bigger ask than what I thought it was going to be, but the comparative side of it is good for me to see. It's a pretty significant budget amendment the first time every time, because we don't know a whole lot, especially going in when we have to adopt the budget earlier in the year. And the second thing that I think is always important to remember, and I've said this when we adopted the budget before, and I just think it's important to say, we had a $4 million surplus 2 years ago, and we anticipated, that's why we adopted a $4 million deficit budget last year. And we balanced that budget. Yes. So coming in, we had a $4 million surplus over the last 3 years. We've adopted now a $4.2 million, after this amendment, $4.2 million deficit. This is still, I'll go back to revenue neutral over the last 3 years, assuming we have a $4.2 million deficit, which, like Mr. Senna said, I'm fairly confident that we'll end up a lot better than that. So I just think it's important to note that, these numbers can look significant in the beginning, but certainly we're, from a 3-year standpoint, and sitting in a very, very good position, and I think we'll end up well at the end of the year. So thank you.
I have a question for you. Can you give us an aspect of where we look like in the state? Is this fairly common with most districts among, at our size in the state? What are we all seeing? Because I think a deficit is never a good thing. But whenever we hear that we're basically moving some line items, and I think we're actually going to be in the black on some of those decisions that we made earlier today, that makes me really happy. I hate spending money, but whenever I do and we can save money, I think that's a good way to do it. Can you give us a feel of where we are within the state, though, and in balanced budgets?
The most common you hear, they're 10% is a pretty common deficit that I'm seeing around the state. But I really, that's really.
Can you elaborate? 10%.
Well, if I could interject, Amanda Brownson from TASBO, Texas Association of School Business Officers, put out a report, I don't know, about 3 months ago that projected that out of a survey they did of 313 school districts in the state of Texas, 80% expected to pass a deficit budget for this year. 43% were making major cuts to their school budget. Now, we did not do that this year. Up last week up in Dallas, I was horrified when I heard West Orange Grove, or whatever the name of that district is near Beaumont. There you go. Okay. They had an increase in their insurance, property and casualty insurance, of $900,000 out of a $33 million budget. That was just the increase in insurance because they're in a very rough area. So 80% expected to pass a deficit, 43% making substantial cuts. So we're in relatively better shape than the average in the state of Texas. However, that doesn't mean we're in good shape, you know.
No, absolutely not. And that's not I'm not trying to say that, hey, yeah, we're doing great. But we also sit at these tables at these TASB meetings and, hear the doom and gloom and people kind of, messing about how much they're spending and how much the deficit is. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to is this is something that's extremely common. And I think because that 80%, that 20% there, a lot of those are dipping into their copper pennies and things of that nature, which I don't think is maybe necessarily the best wise decision for their districts as well.
Well, as a property wealthy district, if we ever even contemplated copper pennies, you'd be giving a lot of that money right back to the state. So that makes no sense whatsoever. No, but Wes, you're from North, so you used to work in North Side, and I don't know how they operate their budget, but they adopted a $93 million deficit on $1.1 million of revenue. That's a 9% deficit. Now, I have no idea if they're as conservative in their revenue estimates as Mr. Scott is. He's cautious that way, which is a good thing. So what I wonder, and we don't have the answer to that right now, is even if the state were to come out with a substantial increase in the basic allotment, they got to pay that deficit back first before they're in the black to be giving out future raises to teachers or custodians or food service workers or whatever. And we're in relatively, the challenges we face, yes, but I think we're relatively in better shape because we've been more cautious over the last few years. So,
Yes, what Mr. Senna was speaking to is exactly what I was talking about. 10% of their budget's coming out.
Anything else? You good? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Well, I can get my mic on. Mr. President, I move to approve the budget amendments, donation report, and tax collection reports as presented.
We've got a motion and a second. I think Ms. Gonzalez Cooper had the second on that one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Right. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Scott. So that's, let's see, that brings us to the end of the meeting here. Future business items. We've got potentially a report on advanced academics and progress monitoring, as well as Goal 3, fiscal responsibility, approval of campus and district improvement plans, and approve the quarterly investment report. That'll be exciting for the month of October. And at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned.